Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome to another Cinema Showdown. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for this week it is two heavy hitters. It's going to be Leonardo DiCaprio versus Brad Pitt. Before we get started, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at BamTubeTV. And just like that, we can hop right into things. For both of these actors, there is no shortage whatsoever of iconic and memorable moments. For Leo, one of the scenes I went with was the dinner scene from Django Unchained. Why? Because this one truly shows just how committed to the role and to the scene that Leo really is. When he first smashes the table, he actually sliced his hand open. They just kept going. And that's why Kerry Washington looks so disgusted and horrified when Leo just smears his blood all over her face. Because it's not fake blood, it wasn't staged, it wasn't supposed to happen. The scene is extremely intense and made so much better by Leo's performance.
And beat our ass to death with it, right in front of both y'all.
Easy, big fella.
Then we can examine the three dimples inside from the skull. Now, what's it gonna be, Doc? Huh?
The next scene that I chose was from my favorite Leo movie, which is The Wolf of Wall Street. The scene starts off with Leo's character of Jordan Belfort deciding to leave his company due to FBI pressure. But of course, after looking around at all the sad faces and realizing what he's leaving behind, he decides,
You know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving!
And of course we get an uproar of applause, screaming, shouting, dancing, and everything else. If I didn't know any better, I would say Leo just did this off the cuff. Now I'm sure he didn't, but I guarantee that Leo could get this kind of reaction out of just any crowd. He just has that power, that prowess that an actor really needs, that natural charisma. And it is in full effect in this scene. And the last scene I chose was the Wake Up Mama scene from What's Eating Gilbert Grape. He plays a young disabled boy, and this scene in particular was just a brief glimpse and preview of the upcoming prestigious career and journey that Leo would take us on.
You're hiding, huh? I know that. Pick up.
Switch over now to Brad Pitt, and the first scene I went with for him was the iconic What's in the Box scene from Seven. Brad Pitt gives it his all in this scene. He is angry, he is crying, he is desperate, and he is scared. The scene is super intense, and with a movie that is intense the whole way through, this one is its shining moment. And that is all in thanks to Pitt's realism and authenticity.
Give me the gun, baby.
The next one I went with for Pitt is actually from an earlier role of his from 12 Monkeys, which isn't even his own starring movie, but he definitely steals the show any scene he's in. This scene is just all Brad Pitt. Of course, Bruce Willis is the star of the movie, but this one shows us our not so typical Brad Pitt, where he's playing a sort of crazy, zany, insane asylum type character. He's goofy, he talks a mile a minute, and he just never shuts up. But that is exactly why we love him in this role, and in this scene in particular. I would go as far to say as this might possibly be the best scene in the entire movie, and it is all, of course, thanks to Brad Pitt.
Doctors mainly that they're these teeny tiny invisible bad things called germs that get into your body and make you sick. Huh? He's trying to get doctors to wash their hands. What is this guy? Crazy?
And for the last scene that I have chosen for Brad Pitt is coming from Fight Club, because we couldn't leave out Fight Club. Oh wait, I just said it.
You do not talk about Fight Club.
Although Edward Norton is in the scene, and I would say is arguably even the focus, it is Brad Pitt that steals all of his thunder. The scene is now synonymous with the movie, and of course, its big twist. And you have Brad Pitt guiding your way through this scene the entire time. If he didn't pull off this scene, I'm not quite sure if this twist really would have worked for this movie, and if it would be as iconic as it is. But what it really comes down to for me is when I was thinking of Leo's most iconic or memorable scenes, I was able to rally off a dozen, if not more, just off the top of my head. And with Brad Pitt, I'm not going to lie, I actually struggled for a little bit trying to think of some scenes. Although these three scenes each are pretty equal, there's just no denying that when you think of Leo, so many scenes come to mind right away. Therefore, round one is going to have to go to Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo is always doing dramatic movies. About 10 times out of 10, you will find Leo in a dramatic role, whereas Brad Pitt was always kind of known as the sexy, cool, shirtless guy. For this round, what I really looked at was all of the roles they've had throughout their entire career. Brad Pitt has had a wide variety and assortment of roles. He's done everything from your dramatic roles like Fight Club and Seven, to big action franchise movies like World War Z, to more indie films like Killing Them Softly, and of course more out there roles that take him a little bit extra, like how he had to use a lot of mocap for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and franchises like the Ocean's movies. And also even animated voice work with movies like Happy Feet and Megamind. Brad Pitt has really done and tried it all. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. But you have to commend him for always trying new things and pushing himself further and further. Switch over to Leo, and I hate to say it, as much as I love the guy, he really does play the same character almost every time. Sometimes there's a little twist, change of scenery, change of costume, maybe a bit of an accent or something, but he always plays the same really intense, in-your-face, lots of screaming kind of role. But the thing is, he does it so damn well. We enjoy every movie he comes out with and scream Oscar every time, despite the fact that if you really look at it, he's playing the same character, just different variations of it. So with this round where we are looking at variety, I'm going to have to go with Brad Pitt. The man has tried just about everything, so he definitely deserves the point for this one. Believe it or not, with these two actors, despite all of their acting credits, they actually have very few frequent collaborators. For Leo, the main two I wrote down were Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, but he also has gone 2 rounds with co-star Tom Hardy and director Baz Luhrmann. And for Brad Pitt, I have director David Fincher, co-star George Clooney, and once again, Quentin Tarantino. We'll look at the Leo-Scorsese combo first. We have Gangs of New York, The Aviator, The Departed, Shutter Island, and The Wolf of Wall Street. And if I were a betting man, which I am, I can guarantee that you will see at least 1, maybe 2 or more movies coming from these two together. So what do you think of when you think of these movies and these two together? Well, you're probably going to think of either Scorsese's or Leo's best. Every single time they've done a film together, it's been a critical darling, it's been a financial darling, audiences love it, everybody loves it, and you look back on them with such fond memories. Switch over to Leo and Tarantino, they've done 2 films together, Django Unchained and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 2 more recent films, but it doesn't mean they are any less great. Leo was nominated for an Oscar for Django Unchained, and honestly, there's a huge argument there if he should have won it or not. Of course, he lost it to his co-star of Django, so I guess that says something about the movie and its performances. As for Baz Luhrmann, they're not my favorite Leo movies. I don't think they're anyone's favorite Leo movies, but most people look at them as pretty solid, and those are The Great Gatsby and Romeo and Juliet. And as for Tom Hardy, they star together in The Revenant, which was the one movie that Leo finally won his Oscar for, and Christopher Nolan's Inception, which most people would say is probably Christopher Nolan's best work. Whenever Leo works with any of these frequent collaborators, you are always getting him at his best. Switch over to Brad Pitt, and we have the Brad Pitt-David Fincher combo, in which we get undeniably Brad Pitt's best performances. You have Seven, Fight Club, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Are they all more dramatic movies? Yes, of course. Are they all Brad Pitt's best work? Yes, of course. Anytime these two come together, you already know that you are going to get an absolutely stellar performance from Brad Pitt and masterful direction from David Fincher. Look at Pitt and Clooney now, and you have the 3 Oceans movies and Burn After Reading. Now, although most people probably associate these two as the leads of the Oceans movies, are they the best movies in the world? No, but they are definitely enjoyable heist flicks. But when you think of this franchise, there's no denying that you're automatically going to Clooney and Pitt and their chemistry, which is absolutely remarkable. And lastly, we look at Pitt and Tarantino. We have Pitt's leading role in Inglourious Basterds, and then most recently we go to Pitt's role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So now we have a battle between Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton. At the end of the day, there's no denying that when you pair these actors up with their frequent collaborators, you are going to get some of their best and most memorable work. This one was a tough one for sure, but I'm going to have to give round 3 to Leonardo DiCaprio. This one was the round that I struggled with the absolute most here, because I had to choose the characters and then I had to decipher their characters and see which one had a better performance and which one was a better character. So I chose Tyler Durden for Brad Pitt from Fight Club, and I chose Jordan Belfort from The Wolf of Wall Street for Leo. For me, Tyler Durden is a much better, well-written character, and especially when the twist in the movie hits, the character gets so much more interesting. Switch over to Jordan Belfort, the character is not really that well written. We've had so many of these characters, you know, the guys that are on on the run from the law, that break the law, that are trying to hide, they're snarky, they're arrogant, they're taking drugs. But what elevates this character to new heights was Leo's performance. For myself and just about everybody else, this is the role that Leo should have gotten the Oscar for. Jordan Belfort is now a household name, and that is of course all thanks to Leo's performance. Brad Pitt didn't write this character, and I feel like just about anyone could have done this role, whereas Leo took an average character and made it into something else, so this round is also going to go to Leonardo DiCaprio. Before we decide a winner, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the video, and click that little bell icon so you can be notified about all of our newly released Cinema Showdowns. If these actors were to retire or pass on today, leaving behind what they have out right now, who would leave a bigger legacy behind? You look at Brad Pitt and he has a much larger catalog with 78 acting credits, and he has a lot more variety in his career, where Leo only has about 40 acting credits and not a whole lot of variety. Although Pitt has variety, it doesn't necessarily always pay off, whereas although Leo typically plays the same character, he always has a phenomenal movie every single time. I mean, really, is there a bad Leo movie? He gives it his all with every single performance, and every time he comes out with a new movie, it instantly becomes a classic. Therefore, the fifth and final round and the crown is going to go to Leonardo DiCaprio. Before we go, folks, here are the results for the most recent Fan Vote Friday. Thank you all for voting and leaving your input, and don't forget that every single Friday, we will have a brand new Fan Vote Friday on our Instagram page at BamTubeTV. And if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment and let me know. If you were a director today, right now, and you had to choose a leading man, would you be going with Leo or would you be going with Brad Pitt? As always, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.